Welcome to another tutorial on SAPP coding, and today we'll be covering polymorphism. It's another part of object-oriented programming. So what is polymorphism? Polymorphism is almost like the same thing as inheritances, but it provides a bit more depth because it allows you the methods that you inherit from the parent class, but you can perform those in different ways. So you can call the method to use it in different ways, and that's why polymorphism is much more popular than inheritances, as your code can be more flexible and adaptable. Types of polymorphisms include compile-time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. In compile-time polymorphism, you have static binding, and in that there's method overloading. Method overloading means there are several methods in a class that have the same name but different parameters and functions, etc. At compile time, Java knows which method to choose by the method signatures. Dynamic binding is resolved at runtime instead, not compile time. And instead of overloading a class, they override the superclass reference or the parent. So you can call it differently. You should use polymorphism when you want to reuse your code, and you want to reuse methods and functions of an existing class when creating a new class, and you also want to call it differently instead of copying and pasting the exact same thing. And how to use polymorphism. It's almost like the same thing as inheritances. You use a keyword extends, subclass is a child, superclass is the parent. By the way, if you haven't checked out the inheritances video, check that out. It's also in this Java playlist. And an example of polymorphism would be a superclass would be a flight, and in that there's a method called speed, and the subclasses of the parent class flight would be jets and helicopters. And the Java syntax to call it would be class jet extends flight or class helicopter extends flight. This is saying that the jet and helicopter should inherit the methods, but then you have to call the public void method speed, and then you can call that differently by adding different things in that method specifically for that child class. So here's an example. Class flight, then we're calling a method, and in this method called flight speed, we're printing something. Then we're calling class jet, and that extends the parent class. We're calling the same method with a different print statement, and it does not throw an error because this is polymorphism. And this is a jet speed, and this would be 300 miles per hour. Then we're doing the same thing with helicopter, calling the same method, but in the print statement we're writing the helicopter speed is 150 miles per hour. So this is clearly different, but this is how you use polymorphism to adapt your code, because often you will not use inheritances because everything's different, and if you were going to use inheritances, you would have to copy the exact same things, which could be a headache, and then you have to fix that later. So now, let's see an example of polymorphism in a Java IDE. So in the first line, this is our package, and my package is going to be different from yours. So to start off, we're defining a class. This is not the class that comes with when you're applying a new file. This is a class that I actually wrote. And in this class, I have a method called flight speed, and it's a public method, and it's void, so it doesn't have to return anything. And in this method, we are printing out something, and in this case, we're printing on the flight travels at. And then we're closing this class and starting another class, class jet, and this class inherits the parent class of flight. But this is not inheritance, instead this is polymorphism. So after, we can call the method and change the print statement, so it allows for more flexibility. And I'm doing the exact same thing for helicopter, which is another jet, which is another child class of flight. And as you can see, there's different code in the system.print in this print statement than this print statement. So this shows that you can actually adapt your code into different methods and stuff, even while inheriting from the parent class. So for example, if you wanna if for an example like this, you can't copy this print statement because you want something that's unique for your own class. Like a helicopter has a different speed from a jet. So if you wrote a hard copied speed there, this file would not work because that'd be incorrect. But instead, polymorphism allows you to call the same method but have a different output. And then this is our actual class, and in this we have our main method. And in the main method, I'm creating new objects of each class. And this one, the flight my jet, flight my helicopter, and this is calling the class. Then we are using these variables and calling the methods in the main. And that is basically a very simple example of polymorphism. In the comments, let me know if you have any questions, and see you later. Thank you.